I held that check in my hand. $75 million, made out to my son Daniel, the boy who lived in a one-bedroom apartment, the boy who ate ramen 3 nights a week, the boy I'd written off as a failure for 30 years. I laughed. I actually laughed. Then his lawyer started talking, and the floor fell out from under me. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining us today at True Experience. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with more real-life tales of betrayal and justice. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community across the UK, Canada, and around the world. Quick note, names have been changed for privacy, but the events are real. My name is Robert. I'm 68 years old. I've been married to my wife Patricia for 42 years. We have 2 sons, Michael, who's 40, and Daniel, who's 38. I need to tell you about Daniel because I got it wrong. I got everything wrong. When Daniel was 17, he told me he wanted to be a teacher. We were sitting in my study. I remember the light coming through the window, hitting the side of his face. He looked hopeful, excited even. I told him no, not directly. I didn't forbid it. I just explained very calmly that teaching was a waste of his potential, that he was bright enough for law, for medicine, for business. That teacher struggled, that he'd spent his life poor, unappreciated, overlooked. He nodded. He always nodded when I spoke. But he went anyway. He majored in education, took a job at an inner-city school in Chicago, making $32,000 a year. He married a woman named Grace, a kind, quiet woman who worked as a nurse. They lived modestly. No children. They said they were happy. I didn't believe them. Michael, on the other hand, did everything right. Law school, corporate firm, partnership at 34. He married a woman from a good family, had 2 children, bought a house with a 3-car garage. When Patricia and I updated our will, the division was obvious. Michael would receive the bulk of the estate, the house, the investment accounts, the business assets. Daniel would get a small trust, enough to live on if he was careful. I told myself it was fair. Michael had worked for it. Michael had made something of himself. Daniel had chosen poorly. Patricia disagreed. Not loudly. She never did anything loudly. But she'd mentioned Daniel's name at dinner. Tell me about the kids he'd helped, the awards he'd won from the school district, the letters parents sent him. I'd nod. I'd say that was nice. Then I'd change the subject. Over the years, I saw Daniel maybe twice a year. Thanksgiving. Christmas, if he could make it. He'd sit at the table, polite, smiling, asking how we were. I'd ask about his job. He'd say it was good. That was it. Michael visited often. He'd talk about cases, about deals, about his kid's private school. I'd listen, proud. This was my son. This was what success looked like. I retired at 63. Patricia and I moved to a smaller place in Connecticut. The will stayed the same. 80-20, favoring Michael. I saw no reason to change it. Then, 2 years ago, Patricia had a stroke. She survived, but she needed care. Round-the-clock care for the first 3 months. Then part-time after that. It was expensive. The kind of expensive that eats through savings if you're not careful. Michael called once a week. He sent flowers. He visited twice, once right after it happened, once a month later. Both times he stayed less than an hour. He had work. He had the kids. He had responsibilities. I understood. I told him I understood. Daniel came the day after I called him. He took a leave of absence from school. He stayed for 11 weeks. He cooked. He cleaned. He sat with Patricia when the nurses weren't there, reading to her, talking to her, holding her hand when she cried from frustration at not being able to speak clearly. I watched him. I didn't say much. I didn't know what to say. Grace came on weekends, bringing groceries, doing laundry. She never complained. Daniel never asked for money, never mentioned the cost of being away from work. When Patricia recovered enough to manage with part-time care, Daniel went back to Chicago. He hugged me at the door. He said, "Call me if you need anything, Dad." I nodded. After he left, Patricia looked at me. Her speech was better by then. She said, "You should change the will." I said we'd talk about it later. We didn't. A year passed. Patricia regained most of her mobility. Daniel called every Sunday. Michael called every 2 weeks, usually while driving somewhere. The conversation rushed. I still hadn't changed the will. Then one Saturday afternoon, Daniel showed up at our door unannounced. He had a man with him, older, wearing an expensive suit, carrying a briefcase. "Dad," Daniel said, "this is Mr. Harrison. He's a lawyer. We need to talk." I let them in. Patricia came into the living room, her walker clicking against the hardwood floor. She sat down, her face curious. Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. He handed me a document. It was a check, a cashier's check, made out to Daniel. $75 million. I looked at Daniel. He was watching me, his expression calm. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "What is this? Some kind of prank?" "It's real," Mr. Harrison said. "Your son came into a substantial inheritance 6 months ago." "Inheritance?" I looked at Daniel. "From who?" "Do you remember Mrs. Chun?" Daniel asked. I frowned. The name was familiar, but I couldn't place it. She was one of my students. Daniel said, "Back in 2008. She was 14 when I taught her. Struggled in school. Her parents didn't speak much English. I tutored her after school for 2 years. Helped her get into college." "Okay," I said slowly. "She went to MIT," Daniel continued. "Studied computer science. After graduation, she started a tech company. It went public last year." Patricia's hand went to her mouth. "Mrs. Chin never married," Mr. Harrison said. "No children. Last year, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. She had 6 months. She spent that time putting her affairs in order." He pulled out another document. "She left the bulk of her estate to various charities and educational foundations, but she left a significant portion to your son. $75 million. She said in her will that he was the only teacher who ever believed in her, that he changed her life." The room was silent. I looked at the check again. The numbers didn't seem real. "She passed away 3 months ago," Daniel said quietly. "The estate just cleared probate." I didn't know what to say. I sat there, holding this check, looking at my son, my poor, struggling teacher son, who was suddenly wealthier than I'd ever be. "Why didn't you tell us?" Patricia asked, her voice shaking. Daniel looked at her. "I wanted to see something first." He turned to me. "Dad, I know about the will." My stomach dropped. "Michael told me." Daniel said, "Last Christmas." He'd had a few drinks. He thought it was funny. 80-20 split. He said you told him I'd made my choices and had to live with them. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "I wasn't angry," Daniel said. "Not really. Disappointed, maybe, but not surprised. You've made it clear my whole life what you think of me." "Daniel," Patricia started. He held up his hand. "It's okay, Mom. Really. I came here today because I wanted Dad to see this." He gestured to the check. "I wanted him to know that the life he thought was a failure wasn't, that the choice he mocked turned out to matter, that the student I helped for free, because that's what teachers do, became successful beyond anything I could have imagined, and she remembered me." He stood up. Mr. Harrison closed his briefcase. "I'm not here for an apology," Daniel said. "I'm not here to make you feel bad. I just wanted you to know. Grace and I are moving. We bought a house in Vermont. Small town, good school district. I'm going to keep teaching. She's going to keep nursing. The money's in a trust. Most of it's going to fund scholarships for students like Mrs. Chun, kids who need help, kids whose teachers believe in them." He looked at me directly. "I turned out fine, Dad. Better than fine. And I did it my way." He walked to the door. Grace was waiting outside. I hadn't even seen her come in. They must have planned this. Patricia called after him. "Daniel, wait." He turned. She was crying. "I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you." He smiled. "I know, Mom. That's why half of what I'm keeping is going into an account for you, for your care, so you never have to worry. So Dad never has to choose between your health and his retirement. Then he looked at me one more time. The will doesn't matter anymore. Dad, keep it however you want. I don't need your money. I never did. I just needed you to respect me. The door closed behind them. I sat there for a long time, holding that check. $75 million. Made out to my son. The son I'd pitied. The son I'd written off. Patricia was still crying. Robert, she said, what have you done? I didn't answer. I couldn't. 3 days later, Michael called. He'd heard. Daniel had told him. Michael was furious, not at me, but at Daniel. Can you believe this, he said. All this time he's been sitting on this. And he didn't say anything? That's manipulative, Dad. That's... I hung up on him. For the first time in my life, I hung up on Michael. I called my lawyer the next day. Changed the will. 50-50 split now. Patricia insisted. I agreed, but it didn't matter. Daniel was right. The will didn't matter anymore. I drove to Vermont a month later. Didn't call ahead. Just showed up. Daniel answered the door. He looked surprised. I came to see the house. I said. He stepped aside. Let me in. It was beautiful. Old farmhouse restored. Bright kitchen. Grace was baking something. She smiled when she saw me, but was careful. Guarded. Daniel gave me a tour. Showed me his office. Bookcases full of lesson plans, student projects, thank you card from parents. A photo on the desk. Him and Mrs. Chun at her college graduation. She was smiling, holding her diploma. Daniel had his arm around her shoulders, proud. I stared at that photo for a long time. She sent me that. Daniel said quietly, wrote on the back, thank you for seeing me. That's all. Thank you for seeing me. My throat was tight. We had dinner. Grace made pot roast. We talked about small things. The house. The town. Patricia's progress. When I left, Daniel walked me my car. I'm sorry, I said. The words came out rough. Unfamiliar. He nodded. Didn't say it was okay. Didn't say he forgave me. Just nodded. I drove home in silence. That was 6 months ago. I see Daniel more now. Once a month. Sometimes more. Patricia and I visited for Thanksgiving. Michael didn't come. Said he had other plans. I didn't push. Daniel's Scholarship Fund gave out its first awards last month. 15 students. Full rides. All kids from underfunded schools. Kids who needed someone to believe in them. Mrs. Chin would have been proud. I think about her sometimes. This girl I never met. This student who sat in my son's classroom and saw something I didn't see until it was almost too late. She saw a man who cared, who showed up, who made a difference in ways that don't show up on a paycheck or a business card. She saw what I should have seen all along. I'm 68 years old. I made a lot of money in my life, built a successful career, raised 2 sons, but only one of them turned out to be the man I should have been. And it took $75 million for me to see it. The will's changed now. 50-50. But that's not the real change. The real change is that I call Daniel every week now. I ask about his students. I listen when he talks. I don't try to fix things or offer advice. I just listen. Last week, he told me about a kid in his class. Struggling. Parents working 3 jobs. Falling behind. I'm going to tutor him. Daniel said, after school. No charge. Just help him catch up. That's good, I said. That's really good. Yeah, Daniel said. You never know. Maybe he'll change the world someday. Maybe he will. And if he does, it'll be because a teacher, a poor, struggling, overlooked teacher, saw something in him that nobody else did. Just like Daniel saw something in Mrs. Chun. Just like I should have seen something in Daniel. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to True Experience for more real-life stories that remind us what really matters. And leave a comment. Tell us about a teacher who changed your life or a time when you realized you've been wrong about someone who mattered. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.